The one thing I was really hoping from this week's episode of The Promised Neverland was a Norman-focused episode in terms of the backstory of what led up to him being where he's currently at. And very quickly into the episode, I realized we weren't going to get that backstory, and I was really disappointed. There's a lot of concepts and topics that were brought up that I thought were quite interesting. Sure, it wasn't really a mystery, it was more, here's the information, you don't really get time to think about it and kind of say, oh, I wonder where this will go. It's pretty clear where the information will go. But then the episode ends with a part of season 1 where instead of Norman going to the truck, he goes through a door and someone's waiting for him. And to me, that says, as long as they don't mess it up, episode 8, that's going to be a Norman backstory. How long of a backstory? I don't think it would be a whole episode given the fact that this is an 11 episode season, but it does feel like we're going to get his perspective, which will hopefully further highlight why he is so pressed against his plan, why he's pretty much kind of shit out of luck in terms of time, because him and pretty much everyone who's working on annihilating the demons seemingly are having their lives cut very, very short, given Norman coughing up blood, the seizures that they experience, and it's not a single pill. They had a handful of pills that they had to take, Barbara that is, after basically freaking out saying they want to be friends with demons. She has an episode and she has to take half a bottle of pills. There's no way they have enough medication to survive, and most likely, if I had to assume something, the reason they take so many pills now is they probably started with 1 or 2, and as the episodes get worse and worse, the more medication they need just to survive. I know there's a lot of talk around Emma saying her idea of wanting to save the demons, it's childish, things like that. And you could say, well, yeah, she's a child, of course. But there is no real difference from her current thought process than that of season 1. And honestly, if it wasn't for Ray edging her on to talk with Norman first, it seemed like she was going to just give in to Norman's plan originally until Ray gave her the nudge to, speak her mind and see where it goes. The thing that I was really happy with was Norman saying, hey, I'll give you 5 days to try to find these 2 demons, but then immediately saying, yeah, I'm not changing my plan the slightest. He's really just trying to get them out of their way, and most likely will probably just kill them when she does bring them to him. It's one of those episodes that there's a lot of interesting concepts here, and in terms of, say, last week's episode, I definitely think last week's was way worse paced than this week's. Obviously, I don't read the manga, at least I don't read the manga past season 1's content, so that could be a completely unpopular opinion, and as I always say, it's fine if you don't like the content here. I'm just here giving my opinion, not saying you have to agree with me. But in terms of the actual episode, while yes, there's no mystery, I think Promised Neverland as a whole, it never needed to follow a certain set of rules for each arc. And from what I've heard, each arc in Promised Neverland is pretty different from a lot of the other ones. And, the original escape arc is very different than Goalie Pond and things like that. So the idea of it not being necessarily a mystery anymore, I think is fine, especially considering the fact that seemingly they are trying to reach an ending here. And I know some people are saying there's no way they could end it in season 2, but I mean, it kind of feels like that's what they're building up to, because I mean, there's no reason you skip as much as you do unless you're trying to get to a certain point to stop at, and honestly, I don't see how you continue after this anyway. But the idea of there actually being a way to honestly save everyone, and the idea of Emma saying, there is kids, there's grandparents, there are honestly people who are eating to survive the exact same way humans are, so why couldn't we just save them? But then Norman throws it in her face saying, as a human, even if you were told you couldn't eat your favorite food anymore because you don't need it to survive, would you give it up willingly? You would still want to pursue it. And it's one of those things that's hard to say, because what she's saying, I agree with. There should be a way to, the nobility are the reason why this all happened the way it did. These 2 demons, they basically had the way to save everything, but, royalty and, controlling the food market, it was just a very scummy thing to do. So the only way that I could see Emma's plan sort of working is a combination of Norman and hers. You kill the royalty and you kill the people kind of controlling the top level strings, and then you use their blood in order to basically make it so they can maintain their form without eating human meat. Would that happen? Honestly, I don't know. If we were not skipping as much as we are, I would say Emma's plan probably would come to fruition just because we'd have a longer time to probably build up to it. But given the fact that it seems like Norman is on death's doorstep as many of his people are, it feels to me that there could actually be a pretty negative ending in terms of the demon storyline, all things considered, which would probably entertain a lot of people in the anime community, I think more so than if Emma's plan did come to fruition. But the idea that there's actually only one gate that they can actually escape to the human world too, which it's no surprise that Norman doesn't even want to do that, because there's no guarantee the human world would accept them, given the fact that that pact between humans and demons is literally made, so if anyone breaks it, I mean, the humans on the other side of the gate would probably start a war, so to speak, with the demons because they'd want their cattle back, so to speak. But the fact that it's actually at Gracefield House, I'm not sure if that will anger people or not. I laughed out loud. I thought that was brilliant, and I love Ray's reaction of being like, the one place that we could have escaped from is literally right under our feet the whole time. And it's just like, it's one of these episodes that, in comparison to, say, last week, where I was definitely disappointed in a lot of ways, I still thought the overall idea was there, but you could tell that we were more in Season 3's content rather than what we're seeing with Season 2, as if we're missing a big chunk. And the thing that it felt to me like we were definitely missing was Norman's like introduction and seeing where he went. If next week or even the week after gives me a decent chunk of Norman backstory, that'll definitely salvage, I think, one of the bigger issues I currently have. And I think if you look at it just from, you're not looking at the source material, you're looking at what the anime is doing. The pacing is off. The pacing is completely different than that of Season 1. There's no denying that. Season 1 is, I would say, arguably the best season of the two. It's more well developed, more well paced. But the ideas that they're bringing up and the concepts of how the demons work and just the idea of like where they want to go with the end goal and Norman coming back. I mean, for Norman and, Ray and Emma, like when you lose a family member seemingly to get 8 and then you meet them again, it doesn't matter how long they've been gone for. It doesn't matter if your mom dies in the hospital and 2 minutes later the doctor revives them. You're going to be happy to see them again. To me, that type of stuff doesn't matter to me in terms of how long he's been removed. To me, it's like you have to make Norman's change in persona really matter. And while what he's saying makes sense, we haven't gotten to see his personal perspective change in terms of like his backstory and things like that. I want to see what he went through. Same with like Barbara and things like that. She's kind of like you don't really want to be around her, but clearly a lot of bad shit happened. I want to see a flashback, and I'd love episode 8 to just be a complete flashback episode for them. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I think we might get 5, maybe 8 minutes if we're lucky, which will be better than nothing. It's one of those episodes that definitely I enjoyed a lot. I think the ideas are really interesting. I really do appreciate when Endgame can kind of bring up the topic of like, morally, why would you want to kill people who are doing the same thing that humans do to general cattle, right? But then you say, like, look at what they've done to us. And Norman is right. There's no way that even if you change their forms to live without human meat, they've grown accustomed to the taste. They're going to still want it. So what do you do? Honestly, I wish Emma's plan could work, but it feels like Norman's plan is the only way to go, especially considering that he's been experimenting from some time. I mean, the jars to the giant beast underneath their home there. It's going to be interesting, but I think the thing that stands out the most to me in terms of what this episode did really, really right was Norman not backing down. He gave Emma and Ray a task, 5 days, originally only going to be 3 days, to find them. And honestly, I was thinking to myself, in a perfect world, most likely Norman was lying for their sake because he wants to kind of be the martyr for them. And then you see by the end of the episode that he's not backing down. And while there is still room for him to back down, at the same time, I feel like they're almost committing to something a bit bigger than that. But then again, they could find a mixture of like maybe killing the royalty, so to speak, and finding a way. Like maybe they can make something that makes them not crave the human taste anymore. It's hard to say, but it's one of those episodes that definitely, it intrigues me. And in terms of pacing issues, I definitely think last week was way worse. You can't deny the fact that it does feel like we're missing content, but the missing content might be able to be re-implemented in terms of things like Norman's backstory over in maybe next week or future episodes. The only thing that really kind of bothers me over the past couple of episodes is a personal preference. I've mentioned it in a couple of anime reviews from different series, like Higurashi as an example. I have just the way my eyes are, I have a hard time seeing in the dark in general. So when a dark scene is in anime, it's like extra hard for me. I have to like up my brightness ridiculously much. So an episode where we're pretty much by candlelight for the past couple of weeks, it's just personally hard for me to see. It's not necessarily, I think, anything the anime did wrong. It's just something that whenever it happens, I'm like, God damn it, I wish I had better eyes so I could actually see dark anime scenes better than what we're seeing. But yeah, this was an interesting episode. I think the concepts are pretty fascinating, and honestly, if they give me Norman backstory next week, I'm going to be jumping for joy. If they don't, I'll be probably crying in a corner. Not literally, but I'll be definitely disappointed. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. What did you think, and where do you think it might go next week? Do you think we're going to get that Norman backstory, or do you think they're going to kind of blue balls us and that's all we're going to get here? Let me know down below. Did you enjoy the video? Leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you happen new around here. Since next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.